Barcelona have stamped their authority on this season's Champions League after winning their first game against Newcastle at St. James Park. Yes, as I said here yesterday, this game is not going to be an easy one, and we saw it with our eyes today. See what happened. Newcastle held Barcelona throughout the first half without conceding and gave Barcelona a run for their money. Yes, so as I mentioned here yesterday, Newcastle have a very solid midfield, and I think that was going to be Barcelona's obstacle today, and it indeed showed clearly in today's game. Yes, so going into this game, Hansi Flick started with the familiar 4-2-3-1 formation with Garcia in goal as usual, Kunde at right back, Araujo and then Kubasi at centre back, and then Gerard Martin at the left back position. In midfield, we had Pedri and then De Jong. The three attackers or the four attackers were Marcus Rashford, Lopez, Rafinha, and then Lewandowski upwards. And then the inclusion of Lewandowski in this starting lineup shows how tactically brilliant Hansi Flick is to this Barcelona setup. Yes, we'll delve into that later. Now, on the side of Newcastle, they started with Nick Pope in goal, Trippier, Shah, Ben, and then Livramento in the back line. Normally, this is Newcastle's midfield. Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali, and Joelinton. Up front was Elanga, Gordon, and Barnes. Yes. So if you ask me, do I see any problem with both lineups? I would say no. Because with Newcastle, this is how they typically want to play. They want to play with people who are quick up front. But then the only problem I have with this Newcastle setup was that why wasn't a number 9 included in this lineup? Newcastle cried for a number 9 when they had issues with Isaac. Later on, they brought two number 9s. And then in a game like this against Barcelona, you decide to bench both strikers and play wingers up front. We'll delve into that as well later. Now, on the part of Barcelona, as I said earlier, I loved the decision of Hansi Flick to start Lewandowski in this match. Someone may ask why. I feel, or I always say this, when you are going into big games, you start with your best. You start with experience. You start with players that you know are your best. Ferran Torres has been on form lately. But then in games like this, no matter how good Ferran Torres has been, there's no way he's going to ever be better than Lewandowski. Yes, so going into a kind of game like this, you needed Lewandowski in there. And as I said, Hansi Flick has showed his tactical brilliance, his tactical brain, and easy understanding of the game, and then started Lewandowski in the match. Secondly, I mentioned here yesterday that Barcelona are going to be they are going to find it very hard to go through this Newcastle midfield. And it was evident today. As the midfield was very difficult to break down, what did Hansi Flick and his Barcelona team do? They started stretching this Newcastle defense. That's one of the best ways to break down compact midfield. You spread the ball to the width so that the defenses stretch. Hence, Barcelona getting their first goal through Marcus Rashford. We saw how the ball was taken to the wings. The defense got stretched. Marcus Rashford came in and then headed home from the cross. So I think that was a very good decision, or a very good tactics to deploy against this Newcastle compact midfield. With what happened today, I wasn't surprised at all. Players like Frankie de Jong, who are one of the best press-resistant midfielders, was finding it very difficult today against this Newcastle midfield. If you want one of the best press-resistant midfielders, proper ball carrier when it comes to midfield play, it's Frankie de Jong. But then today, Frankie de Jong had a very difficult against the likes of Tonali and co. Yes, so I'm not surprised at all, because Newcastle's midfield have proved over the years to be one of the best midfield core when it comes to ruggedness and toughness in play when it comes to midfield. For example, last season when PSG went to St. James Park against the same Newcastle side, they found it very hard to break through that Newcastle midfield. See the quality that PSG has in midfield. But then, yes, they found it very, very hard to break down this midfield. This season, Liverpool went to St. James Park, St. James Park, found it very difficult to break down this Newcastle midfield. Newcastle, under a red card, were still pressing, were still playing, were still controlling the ball from midfield. Yes, so with what happened today, I'm not surprised at all, because this Newcastle team is really built in midfield. Yes. So, kudos to Barcelona for finding a different way out, even with how tough they had it in this game. They couldn't play through the middle, but then they found channels, other channels to win this game. So yes, kudos to Hansi Flick and his Barcelona boys. Marcus Rashford. Yes, today I would say has been the best game he has ever played since joining Barcelona. Getting 2 goals and proving to be the game winner today. But then, before getting the 2 goals, we could all bear witness that Marcus Rashford wasn't at his best. Since joining Barcelona, he has been under pressure to perform by Barcelona fans. A lot of pressure. Even some people saying he should be taken back to Manchester United because they haven't seen any glimpse of quality from Marcus Rashford. But then today, even playing poorly before getting the goal, those 2 goals could show you the kind of quality that Barcelona fans were wanting to see. Yeah, so as I was saying, he wasn't having the best of games till he got that first goal, and then he got that momentum, that groove, and then he came into the game getting the second goal, which was a wonderful goal, a typical Marcus Rashford goal. We know how good Marcus Rashford can strike a ball, and this proved evident today and won Barcelona all 3 points. Now, on the part of Newcastle, the first problem that I had with Newcastle was with their coach, Eddie Howe. As I mentioned earlier, you had issues with goal scoring when you were having problems with Isaac. And then you brought in 2 strikers in the form of Wissa and Watemada. Coming into a game like this, playing at home in front of your fans, you needed this win. Even a draw would have been better because of how good Newcastle played today. But then the exclusion of a proper number 9 in this game was a big factor. And it went against Newcastle. Just look at the goal Gordon scored today. Newcastle had so many scenarios like this one. Putting in shots across. And these balls were begging for a striker to finish them off. But then, because there wasn't a finisher in the Newcastle setup, it was a big problem. Yes. So I think Newcastle had to start with a proper number 9, a focal point. There wasn't a focal point. It was all running. The likes of Elanga and Barnes, they run, they get the ball, they make good runs. But then when they get to the final third, decision making becomes a big problem. And in the modern game, as a winger, you are almost like a striker. So decision making in the final third should be something you should take very, very serious. And in today's game, we saw it. Newcastle didn't finish their chances that they got. They had loads of chances to score even from the first half. Yes, so I think Newcastle played so well today. They did their best. They played very well from defense to attack. From defense to attack. But then the final touch was the problem for Newcastle today. And Barcelona showed their quality overall. I was expecting this game to be very, very hard. Very, very hard. And we saw it. But then kudos to Barcelona for finding a way around this game to get the 3 major points in the first round of games in the Champions League phase. Thank you guys for watching, and may the good Lord be with us all. See you next time.